I just quit my job and I didn't have a job. Hello. My name is Michelle and welcome to my YouTube. Welcome to this video. This video, I want to title it like the biggest mistakes I made in my 20s. So I am 32 right now. I feel like that gives me, credit to be able to talk about my 20s and kind of mistakes or things I wish I wouldn't have done. I think the main one that I already know what I'm going to talk about, but my main thing that I really regret in my early 20s was I was worried so much about being a party girl or like living up to that title. I was very insecure in my early 20s, very insecure, very low confidence. And I felt like the party girl title kind of helped me with that insecurity. It made me feel confident. It made me feel cool. That's the word. Being a party girl made me feel cool when, aside from that title, I didn't really feel cool. I kind of felt like a little outsider, and I also had really bad acne like in my chin area, so I didn't feel like the best about myself. I don't know, but I kind of think that's a rite of passage with your early 20s. It's like you're still figuring things out and you continue figuring things out for the rest of your life. But I will say in your 30s, you'll feel so much better about yourself if you're currently feeling down about yourself in all aspects, because you are not just looks and what people perceive from you. You're multi-dimensional, and there's so many parts of you that you don't realize are very helpful. So yeah, being a party girl was my biggest mistake. That's one of my biggest regrets. I actually don't drink anymore. I haven't drank in over 4 years, and I don't think I'll ever drink again. And I wasn't an alcoholic. I always have to explain that I wasn't an alcoholic. I wasn't like drinking all the freaking time. But in my early 20s, I really cared about like going to a party, going to the club, going out drinking, and just having the time of my life, or so what I thought would be the time of my life. Okay? Because when I was drunk, I didn't feel insecure. Or when I was drunk, I didn't feel shy to talk to other people. It lowered my inhibitions. It lowered this perceived concept of myself. It took me many years to kind of like figure that out, but that is one of my biggest regrets. I did so many stupid things. I have so many stupid stories. So many embarrassing stories, way too many, like way too many. My issue was also that I would black out very often, even without having that much to drink. Let's just say it was a very dense time. Like, yeah, I have some crazy stories I can tell you, but I was also very lost, during that time of my life. So my parents are from South America. They're from Chile. So when I turned 18, my parents split when I was 16, so my dad moved back when I was 16, and once I graduated high school, my mom moved back to Chile. So there was this like abandonment wound that I had, and I rebelled by partying, okay? So that's definitely one of the things that I regret in my early 20s. So if you can kind of relate to that, let me know. Biggest mistakes I made in my 20s. Another mistake that I made in my 20s that I don't want to say I regret, because I don't want to say that I regret, but I stayed in a relationship much longer than I should have. The difficult thing about that is that this person wasn't a bad person at all. I wasn't in a toxic relationship at all, which sometimes some people are, and that's what you kind of have to kick in the butt, as hard as it is, and you have to like learn that lesson. But I definitely stayed in a relationship in my 20s for much longer than I should have. Like within a few months, I could just kind of tell that like this wasn't the one, or like this wasn't the person for me. but I tried to make them fit that mold. And that was like a lesson in there. Like, you can't make anyone fit into any title if they're not meant to fit into that title. So yeah, I just prolonged a relationship for much longer than I should have. And like I said, I don't regret it, but it's like if there was an issue, I kind of glossed over that issue. Does that make sense? Like, I glossed over that issue and I was like, oh, that's gonna get better, or like this will change, or things like that, and it never did. And yeah, I just prolonged it for too much. Another mistake that I made was, I remember I was like 26 and I had like 10K saved at the time, and I absolutely did not like my jobs. I was working as a server and I was very burnt out because there was a time I was working 2 jobs. And what I did was I just quit my job, and I didn't have a job for like 4 or 5 months because I'm like, oh, my 10K is going to take care of it. And it did, until I was down to like 1,500, and I was stressed out. It was so stressful because then I was trying to get another job, and the job process was taking a little bit longer than I expected. I'm sure you can relate, you know, when you go from one job to the other and like you're waiting for that next paycheck. Once I was down to 1,500, I was freaking out because I was also living in like a bougie apartment. So that was like half of my rent almost. It was just a stupid choice. What I would have done is I should have invested those 10K, but like, let's say I should have invested half of that. I didn't even think about investing until like years after that, but I definitely should have invested half of that. I shouldn't have not had a job for 4 months knowing that my rent wasn't very cheap. Probably could have done a month or 2. I also went to like a music festival during that time. I went to Puerto Rico for like a week. I did some cool stuff, but I shouldn't have waited until I had $1,500 in my account, or I should have allocated funds to specific things. Pretty much, I should have been a little bit more financially responsible, because then all of that money left, and then I wasn't able to save up 10K for many years after that. And like I said, I wish I would have invested it. Didn't know much about investing at that time. That time I was solely focused on bringing my credit score up because it had gone down. That's another thing that I'll talk about. So another big mistake in my 20s was not caring about my credit score. I know we shouldn't care about it, but I wish we didn't have to worry about it, but we do need to worry about it because it is important for anything where you would need a credit score. So for many years, I didn't even bother to know what my credit score was until I found out, and it was really low. It took me almost 2 years to get out of a low standing. I was at 500 something. Now I'm at 748. But yeah, I've been in the 700s for the past few years. But I think my biggest mistake was not worrying about my credit score. Yeah, not worrying about what things I had that went into collections. I had things in collections that I didn't even remember, or an old bill from God knows when. Yeah, a big mistake was not knowing your numbers, not knowing my numbers, not being financially responsible, not knowing what my credit score was and all these things. And it's important because let's say you want to buy a home one day, and you need to have a good credit score so that the banks can know that you're reliable and that you're going to pay your stuff. So now my credit score is really good and we're in good standing, but I wish I would have, prepped myself in my earlier 20s more than I did. But you know what? That's what you have your 30s for. Your 30s is fixing up and changing everything that was different or that you didn't like in your 20s. What's another one? I think another one was just hanging out with the party people in my 20s because I should have been hanging out with people that were like trying to get bachelor's degrees maybe. Not even that, but just like people that weren't super focused on just appearance and going out and drinking, and like that was their whole personality, because that became my whole personality. So that's definitely a mistake there. What's another mistake? Let's see, another mistake that I can think about that I made in my 20s was not going to therapy. I didn't go to therapy until like my later 20s. I think I was like 28, 29. I really wish I would have kind of, what's the word? Like I wish I kind of would have prioritized my mental health or what was lingering in my mind. Okay, another mistake that I made was not going to therapy in my 20s. So I never really considered therapy or anything like that, but there was a lot of things that internally I was holding on to, or that were affecting me, or that were hurting me, that I should have talked to a professional about. And that's why I would like drink and party, was because a part of me felt like it was suppressing that part of me, if that makes sense. So there was a time where like I was very upset at my parents because I had this abandonment wound.
Hi guys, so sorry. So my phone ended up dying and I wasn't able to finish the video. Thank you so much for watching and for getting to the end. I can do another video with the same theme, as I have other things that I can speak about, I'm sure. See you in the next video. Bye.